So the question is, can an art expert like myself, publisher of major art magazines, can I make the Mona Lisa better? What do you think? Is it possible? Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through some classic paintings, and we're going to see if we can understand these paintings a little bit more. So we're going to look at Monet, we're going to look at Sargent, we're going to look at a lot of different artists and look at their paintings, and we're going to look at their compositional secrets and see what they've done to make these great paintings. And we're going to ask ourselves, is there something we would do differently? Is there something that we could do to make them better? Now, I know it's a sacrilegious thing to think we could make these great artists better, but even the great artists had flaws. And can we do it? I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to find some really great classic paintings and take a look at them and see what makes a difference. Let's get this show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
I had an art teacher one time who said to me, don't ever try to copy the Mona Lisa because it's the perfect painting. It can't be made better. But can we? Can we make it better? And that's going to be the question. Well, we'll save Mona for last, but what we're going to do is go through some classic paintings, and we're going to look at composition, because this is really about composition. We're going to show you some things that great paintings have done compositionally that really work well, that will make you a better painter when you understand them. Now, on Fridays, I do Feedback Fridays, and typically I go through your paintings and show you what you can do to make them better. The question is, can we improve on any of the classics, or can we learn something from them? Some of them we might not be able to improve on, but we can learn something about what they're doing. And so I am going to go through some classic paintings from some of the great artists like Da Vinci, like Monet, like Bierstadt, Van Gogh, Millay, Andrew Wyeth, and John Singer Sargent, and some others. All right. So can we do it? I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Go into the chat and make sure that you tell us where you're watching from. And we would love for you to chat about what you see. What would you do with the classic paintings? And we're going to get right to it, and we're going to have some fun. And by the way, I may just completely blow this because I've never done this before. But let's start out with Norman Rockwell. All right. So what are the things that makes a great painting? I think that one of the things that makes a great painting, and I've been taking some composition lessons from Don Victor, who's the best, and we have to understand some of these things. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to just create a no-tan of this painting. A no-tan is a black and white or gray and white or whatever version. So we're going to take this painting here, and we're just going to make this a big giant silhouette, right? And we're going to ask ourselves some questions about this painting once we see this big giant silhouette, and see what happens here. Okay, now pay close attention, because this is a really great way to learn. Okay, now we've got this going on, all of this going on, and so we've got this big silhouette, and the question is, does the painting read well by silhouette? If you saw nothing but the silhouette, if you took this guy out, you could see exactly what's going on here. See, the silhouette is a great supporting vehicle. Even if you don't show a lot of values, you can look at this painting, this silhouette right now, and you can say, I know what's going on here. There's a man on top of a house with a TV antenna. If we make it blacks and whites, so if I take this this white area here, now you go, okay, there's a figure here, or there's a blob here that's doing this. One of the things I want to point out to you is there's a thing called the law of contrast. And if you look at this painting, we're going to go back to it in a minute and show you, but this whole painting is dark. All of this is dark, but this is a hot spot. This is the hot spot that is all essentially white. And so what happens is that that's where your eye wants to go. You see everything else that's going on, but that's where your eye wants to go. So keep this idea of dominant contrast in the back of your mind. All right, now the other thing I want to point out to you here is that there's some really great compositional tricks in this. First off, I've learned recently, and this has been very helpful to me, that there are 3 elements in a painting. There's what's called the dominant horizontal, the dominant vertical, and the dominant angle. Okay, so ask yourself this question. Where is the dominant horizontal? Do you see a dominant horizontal in this painting? And I'll just point out a dominant horizontal to you right here. Here's a dominant horizontal right here at the base of the painting. Now, there's also a thing called echoing, which is really interesting. Echoing means you're taking your horizontal and you're repeating it. You're not repeating it as large because the larger one is going to be dominant, or the more substantial one is going to be dominant, but you're repeating it in different ways. And so where are we repeating a horizontal? Let's look at that. Here's our horizontal. Here's another horizontal, another horizontal, another horizontal, another horizontal right there. We're repeating it over here. We're repeating it over here, and we're repeating it back here. So there's a lot, and even the top of that building. So there's a lot of horizontals. Now ask yourself the question, where is the dominant vertical? The dominant vertical in this particular painting is this ladder, right? This ladder is a dominant vertical. There's no vertical that's bigger. This is the second largest vertical here, which is this TV antenna pole. And then we have echoing of verticals. We have verticals echoed here, 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 right? And of course, we have horizontals, as we talked about in other places too, like that. So now we've got a dominant vertical, a dominant horizontal. Now what's next? The next dominant is a dominant angle, right? So where's our dominant angle in this particular painting? Well, this particular painting has dominant angles essentially in a couple of different directions, but they are still dominant angles. You got an angle here supporting it. You have an angle here. There's other angles probably in here. If we look at it very closely, you got some angle in here. And so a great painting oftentimes has a dominant horizontal, a dominant vertical, and a dominant angle. Not necessarily that angle, but a dominant angle. Now, there's other components too, which I'm not going to get too much in that, but there are some things you can do to try to redraw the eye. Now, this is also a classic, what they call a classic triangle composition, right? So this works really well. It's very strong. It's kind of pointing to this, and his eyes are pointing to that, but he's the thing that stands out the most because of the white shirt, because there's what we call dominant contrast. And interesting, dominant contrast is usually your brightest bright next to your darkest dark, or very close. This really stands out there. And there's also really dominant contrast over here because he's silhouetted against this white. And of course, so other things are too, like these elements here. So this is a really great painting to learn from because this shows up so many of these different elements. Now, can I make this painting better? I can't see anything in this particular painting that I would make better. There are instruments in here that I wonder, why did the artist do it? You know, like he's made this spot of light here. And if I were looking at this, I'd say, well, that spot of light isn't serving anything, and I might make that spot of light darker. But I'm sure the artist had a reason for it, and probably reinforcing some of these lights in here. But I can't seem to make this better. And so I think this one needs to be left alone. What do you guys think? What are you seeing? Okay, Susan is saying the men's bodies. Absolutely. Okay, now let's go to another painting and see if we can learn from that. Okay, this is a classic from Andrew Wyeth. What do you see in this painting? Do you see a dominant horizontal? Do you see a dominant vertical? And do you see a dominant angle? Now, sometimes an angle can be an imagined angle. For instance, okay, we have this lovely lady here, and she is staring off into the distance, and she's creating that angle. Just the nature of where her eyes are going is creating this sense of angle, right? So, and her body is at this angle, and her eyes are at that angle. So that's kind of creating that sense of it. Where's our dominant horizontal? Well, it's very subtle, but there's two different places. You've got a dominant horizontal on the horizon line, and you have a dominant horizontal here. So one is repeating, one is going to be more dominant than the other. And there's also probably some horizontal patterns in here, little horizontal patterns that kind of what they call echoing this feel. Now, the next question is okay, so we have an angle, we have a horizontal. Is there a dominant vertical in here? Do you see a dominant vertical? Well, there is. It's a small one, but it's right here. And sometimes a vertical can be little indicators that are going through the grass here that would support it. There's also, interestingly enough, I just noticed this, there's a little angle in here, which is a road, very subtle, but it's a little angle in here as well. So now, if I were critiquing this painting in the way that I normally would, the first thing I would do is I'd go down dead center, and I'd say, do we have anything dead center? We don't, but the head here is pretty close to dead center. I would also look at this painting and I'd say, okay, equal thirds, take the equal thirds, and is there something that's in this equal third? Well, this is definitely a compositional point in that equal third. These houses, you know, would I move them over? No, I don't think I would, because they're placed perfectly to basically trick our eye, pull us in. The other thing is this is a dominant contrast here, right? This dark against the light, and it's a very sharp edge. Wyeth has used very sharp edges on these, so he's really trying to draw our eye there for some particular reason. This painting tells a story, and we don't know exactly what the story is. We don't know what the struggle is. We have since heard, because this woman, if you look at her thin arms, she's struggling because she is handicapped in some way, and she is probably crawling towards home. You know, there is a story, there's a narrative here, but it's hard to know exactly what the narrative is without studying this a little bit more. But are you getting that? The dark eaves is a dominant horizontal to me, says Mayona Urban, the dark eaves right here. Yeah, I think you're right. And so, good, you guys are catching on. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at the Gleaners. This is a Millet painting. That's a classic painting. So let's look at it from the standpoint of what we've just talked about. Is there a dominant horizontal? Yes, there is a dominant horizontal. Is there are there other dominant are there other horizontals that are supporting that horizontal? There are. There's there, there's there, there's there, there's here. There's lots of little horizontals. And the artist has a choice, right? So this shadow may not have been square, but this artist, Millet, made that very square because it's supporting the horizontal. Is there a dominant vertical in this painting? I struggled with this. I looked at this and I said, I don't know. I'm not so sure I'm seeing a dominant horizontal, vertical. This is kind of the closest I'm seeing here, is this sense of vertical here, and then there's some sense of vertical in a couple of these spots back here. But that was one that I struggled with, and maybe you're seeing something different. So anyway, now what about angles? Well, the angles in this particular painting, I think this is probably the dominant angle here. The idea from this hand to here, from this hand to here. The other thing I want to point out, and this is something that new painters do that experienced painters don't do, right? So this concept of clustering, right? So we have this woman, and this woman. An inexperienced painter typically would take these people and they would put them in there separately, right? There's this person separately, then there's this person separately, then there's this person separately, right? So what the artist here has done is he has overlaid these people so that you're creating a cluster. And what I was always taught is that you always want to have 2 and 1, or 3 and 2, right? So if there was another person here clustered into that, and then there was another picker here, that would be a balance too. But looking for opportunities to cluster these things together. So when you have things, when you're evaluating your paintings, you want to look for things that don't look, they look too structured, right? So another place, this could have been one here and one here, and then you could have had this thing here. But what the artist has done is he's laid one over the other, and that makes it more interesting. There's also, if you were to look at this from the classic standpoint of how I oftentimes evaluate paintings with the classic, dividing it into thirds, what do we have here? First off, we have a focal point right in here, and we also have the eye is going back here to this section, kind of creating a sense of balance. But where is the dominant contrast? Do you see a dominant contrast? I see a dominant contrast right here. This is a whiter spot against a darker spot, whiter spot here against a darker spot. So this is really drawing my eye to this primary figure in the middle. And you've got some real strong contrast in here and some strong contrast in here, but this is where the biggest, strongest contrast lies. Okay. So I hope you guys are digging this. We've never done this before, so it's kind of fun. And okay, so we're going to look at this one. This is a classic Velázquez painting. This is called Las Meninas. I saw it. We had the Fine Art Connoisseur trip in Spain. We had private viewing of this with the museum closed. The Prado was closed, and we had our group in the Prado. It's pretty cool. Now, I want to just point out a couple of things in this, because this is one of the most complicated and one of the most successful paintings in history. So what the artist has done here, first off, is where's the dominant contrast? Do you see the dominant contrast? Look at it. I'm looking at this and I'm saying the dominant contrast is right here. This person, that black dressed figure silhouette against that white in the background, is very strong. Now, the other dominant contrast is really here. And this is kind of a triangular composition, and this is really kind of a triangular composition in here. But everything is kind of focused on the little girl, the queen or the princess. Everything is about the princess, and they are all kind of looking at her, paying attention to her. And even the dog, maybe the dog's looking at her, I can't tell. And this, of course, is Velázquez's self-portrait. And he has put himself in here relatively dark. And so if you were to take this painting and look at it from the standpoint of contrast, what would happen if we went in here and we turned this into a no-tan, right? This whole painting would be basically a big block of very little light. And so you nail this down to darks and lights, it's going to be kind of just a lot of little spots of light, and primarily all the light is centered around the little princess. So anyway, I thought you might enjoy that one. In terms of compositionally, let's look at it through the eyes of composition. You've got your equal thirds here. Let's make that a little smaller. Got your equal thirds here, and you've got your equal thirds here. That's pretty close to the line of that. And you've got this going on. So you've got compositional area here. He's got a self-portrait here. In this particular case, I don't think he used equal thirds, but and there's nothing that is really dead center. This is pretty close to dead center, but it's worth looking at. So anyway, I enjoyed this. I like the fact that he's kind of separated. He's put this big, strong, dominant horizontal in here. All right. Let's say now where's, excuse me, that's a dominant vertical. Is there a dominant horizontal in this? Ask yourself this. Here's some echoed verticals, right? There's a vertical here. I mean, an angle here. Do we see any other angles? There is a perceived angle here. There's a perceived angle here echoing that angle. And maybe a little bit of angle here and some angle in this woman here. So that may be the only angle in this. And then what about horizontals? Well, the horizontals really is the negative of that green line back here, supported back here, supported up here, and then, you know, supported with some of these other pieces. And there's a vertical supported there. So anyway, let's move on. All right, tell us where you guys are watching from. Okay, the little person on the second from the right is not looking at the princess. She's looking at the king and the queen, like the princess. Okay, let's see that. Second person from the right. Okay, maybe here. Hard to tell. Okay, next one. Let's look at this. I found this one to be interesting. This is our friend Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, as is properly said. Now, I wanted to point this one out because there's something in here that I really liked, which is not something I would have done, and I thought it was really good. But let's first off, let's look at this painting from the standpoint of equal thirds and ask ourselves, did Van Gogh think about equal thirds? Well, I think that this is probably his intended primary focal point. This is pretty much a dominant contrast point here because of the dark and the light. So I think his intention was to draw us to these two spots, and one of them would be more dominant. And because it's a rogue color in here with the red roof, I'm thinking that's probably his intention, is to draw us in there. In terms of looking for dead center, nothing going on dead center. I think there's a little indicator here of a mark, but nothing happening there. Now let's look at do we have a dominant vertical? We do. Do we have a dominant horizontal? We do. This is the biggest horizontal here. There's supporting horizontals in here and in here. And what about a dominant vertical? Well, this would probably be the dominant vertical. And sometimes, again, sometimes they'll put indicators in the grass that kind of carry it on. It might be a shadow, it might be a reflection or something like that. So then we have a lot of supporting verticals echoing that particular vertical. All right. So what I like about this painting, which I thought was wonderful, is my tendency, I would do this. I would probably do something like this. I would lead the eye in with a road, and then I would lead the eye into there. What Van Gogh did here, which was absolutely genius, is he led my eye off the painting, but he led my eye back in the painting all the way up to the house, which I thought was really, really good. Now, if I were critiquing this painting and I didn't think it was, you know, if I thought it was just some schmo, I would probably say, put something here, a bush or something here to block you from going out of the painting. And I would have probably, again, moved the line into here somewhere to do that. But I do like the fact that he did that, and I thought that was good. The other thing I probably would have recommended in this particular case, but of course it's Van Gogh, so it's wonderful. I probably would have considered putting some kind of a shadow in here to get something nice and dark up front. But and would that improve it if we did that? I don't know. Let's just look at this and see if we can figure out a good shadow color and see if this would make a difference. If we put a shadow in here, would it make this better? Would it make it worse? I don't know. I don't think it improves it much. So I'm not so sure that there's any reason to do that there. But the one thing he did do is he put a strong dark in the weeds up in front in here. But his darkest dark, where's his darkest dark in the painting? It's right here. I think we need to narrow that down a little bit, make that a little redder. So darkest dark in the painting seems to be here, 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 here. And there's strong contrast here. So not every artist follows these guidelines, and they're not necessarily artists even know those guidelines, but it's kind of fun to look at. Somebody says the shadow is distracting. I agree. Okay. So somebody says his Japanese inspirations are what led him to the stark emptiness of the foreground. Don't disagree with that. Okay, let's look at Albert Bierstadt. Bierstadt was one of the great American painters. He's actually German, but he was one of the kind of the great landscape painters of the 18th century, 19th century, I guess. Okay, so ask yourself this. What's the intended here? Where's the eye being drawn here? I think there's no question that the eye is being drawn into all of this light here. Let's just look at this from a couple of standpoints. First off, let's do our typical centered activity. Well, there's a little something in the center there. That's not necessarily bad or good. It's just, it is what it is. Let's look at our tic-tac-toe board, equal thirds. And interestingly enough, these mountains are very close to that. They're not exactly that. And again, nothing has to be exact, but they kind of frame this painting in those areas. And focal point really tends to be here in this particular area. So Bierstadt has done a really great job with that. Do you see a dominant horizontal? You see a dominant horizontal in here. Here we go. You know, dominant horizontals are oftentimes going to be your horizon line. Couldn't think of it. Do you see a dominant vertical? Here's a dominant vertical. It's not exactly straight, but it's a dominant vertical. Here's a supporting vertical. Here's a supporting vertical. Now, what about angles? Okay, well, you got a really strong angle here. That would be the dominant angle. There are other angles in here. And this, or you could say this really counts as a dominant angle. And that really could be part of that. So you've got strong dominant things. And then, you know, you've got the clouds that are kind of leading you back over here, which is pretty interesting. So that's Bierstadt. We're going to get to the Mona Lisa at some point. All right. Okay, you guys, make sure you tell us your comments, where you're watching from. If anybody wants to come on camera, say hello. We would love to have you on if you have an opinion about all of this. Let's look at this other Bierstadt painting. I just went and grabbed some great classic paintings this morning. Actually, if you look at these are almost the same painting. I mean, look at them side by side. You got very, very similar paintings, just different lighting. They might even be the same place. So your dominant horizontal. So there. Where's your dominant vertical? Dominant vertical here, dominant vertical here. Which one's more dominant? I don't know. I think this one, because it sticks up more. Got your angle here, got your angle here. It's essentially the same painting. It's different lighting. It's even glowing in here. And of course, they put the deer up front. Now, the other thing is there a dominant contrast in this painting? Do you see something that's dominant contrast? I see, obviously, this is light against dark in here. I think that's pretty strong. But I also see a spot of light here that's creating a sense of dominant contrast for me, or it could even be the silhouette of the animals. One thing to understand is that silhouettes are very present in most paintings. If you look at this painting from a no-tan perspective, let's see if we can do this without ruining it completely. If you look at this painting as a no-tan, which is a really great exercise to do, you look at, there's no grays, there's just darks and lights. So you look at this painting and you say, okay, this is your darks. We're not including little spots of light on these darks. So this is all dark. This is mostly dark. This is all dark. This is dark in here. And so it's basically reading pretty well. And so you got your light in here. So this is kind of gray area here, but essentially you've got a lot of darks. So the notan on this would be very much like this, except I would be able to fill it in. I just can't seem to do it on this tablet quickly enough. But that's a good thing, you know, is when you first start a painting, whether you're outdoors or not, ask yourself, can I understand what the big shapes are? And can I see if this painting reads by itself with just the big shapes? And does it work? Does it draw the eye? And so, yeah, I think it does. So let's look at another painting here. This is a classic watercolor painting from John Singer Sargent. And, you know, I don't think Sargent can be improved upon. I looked at this and I studied it and I thought, man, this is a complicated painting. You know, here he is, he's out there in Switzerland, where we're going to Switzerland this year. And he's got all these rocks and he's trying to make something of these rocks. He's probably saying, okay, I got to work on my rocks like I do. And I look at this and I say, what is he thinking here? Where is he trying to draw the eye? And I'm having a hard time with it. I'm struggling with it. But there is a couple of things in here that I did want to point out. And let's just look at those things. First off, his angle, his dominant angle in here is very clear. But I'm not seeing anything that strikes me as a dominant horizontal or dominant vertical. Now, they may be there, they may be present, but I'm not seeing it because of the busyness in here. So it's probably, I'm not even seeing a single horizontal line in here. I'm looking at these, they're not horizontal. This is kind of horizontal, but it's tough. So I'm not so sure that that's anything that Sargent was thinking about in this particular case. Where's the point of contrast? Where's the light against the dark spot? Well, again, you know, it's kind of hard to figure it out. I mean, this is very close, but it's not the lightest. This one over here is very, very light. A couple of light spots in here, and they don't seem to be drawing the eye in a particular way. So I'm not so sure. You know, there's definitely good contrast in here. So, you know, if you looked at this from the equal thirds perspective, you know, would he be trying to draw attention in here? This is kind of the area that kind of grabs your eye. All of this is very important and blends together. The other thing is, I think he's leading the eye. I'm seeing a pattern in here that kind of feels like open spaces are creating kind of a Z pattern and leading me up into here. So thought that was interesting. What do you see? The gray rocks on the right side of the wood pile looks like a vertical. I don't see a wood pile. Okay, maybe over here, maybe a vertical here. Okay, good. All right, so that's the bell. That means we got to take a break. Just want to tell you about a couple of things that are going on today. First off, we have an event coming up called Gouache Live. Gouache Live is going to be teaching gouache with some of the world's leading gouache painters. It's a one-day event. It's about a 6 or 8 hour day. Scott Christensen is teaching, Michelle Usabelli, Dan Mondalak, Judd Mercer, Tiffany Mang, Danny Folkman, and Angela Sung. These are some great gouache painters, and they all approach it differently. It's interesting because I've seen some of them painted with some of them, and some of them do layering, some of them don't. There's a lot of different approaches to it. And it's gouache is hot right now. So you want to learn about painting in gouache because it's great for travel. It's great for something quick. And sign up, go to gouachelive.com. You will not regret it. All right. Next up, we've got a free gift for anybody who wants one. If you're new here, we'd love to give you our gift. It's a free video. It's a couple hours long. It's called 97 Art Secrets. We have taken clips of some of the greatest content and some of the greatest advice of any of the paintings we've ever had done on video. And we've created this video called 97 Incredible Art Secrets. You can get it for free. If you want, you can get a DVD, but you got to pay for the shipping on that, which is not very expensive. But just go to 97artsecrets.com/ASL. Okay, so, one of the things about paintings and about looking at paintings is that sometimes we think that artists are very deliberate, and sometimes we look at them and we go, what were they thinking? And that's kind of how I was with this Sargent painting here, right? So I'm like, what is he thinking? It's beautiful, but it does not necessarily follow any particular rhythms other than what I saw here with the Z pattern. But it's still magnificent. And, sometimes rules are meant to be broken and rules are just might not apply. But where's the darkest dark in this painting? Do you see a darkest dark? I think it's probably right here up front, and it feels pretty dark in here, but maybe this is the darkest dark. So that's helping it create the sense of receding, and his darks up here are not as dark as the darks up here. And so he's been very good about that, which is not easy to do in any medium, but especially in watercolor. So, but he's created that sense of recession. But I think this is kind of where he's trying to draw the eye. Okay, let's see what else we have. We don't have very many more, but I wanted to look at this Monet painting. And now this painting here is actually cropped. This is the one I saw originally, and this is a little better version of what I saw. So I'm going to work off of this one, but I'm going to go to the other one in a minute and show you. First off, there's a couple of things that I think are really important in here. One is what I call scale. And I taught this recently. So if you want one object to appear bigger, you put a smaller object next to it. And this woman looks much, much bigger than this kid because of that sense of scale. I was taught that trick by the designer who designed People magazine. She always told me, if you're doing want to make something look really big, you've got to spread. She said, put a great big image here, put a little tiny image here, and it makes this image feel bigger. Well, she probably learned that in an art class, composition class or something. So there's scale. Now, there's also, ask yourself the question about verticals and horizontals. And I think that, first off, this is pretty clear. Got a nice sense of horizontal across here. Got a nice sense of vertical here. But interestingly enough, it's an angle. So it's really becoming a triangle composition, and it's pointing to her face, even though her face is in shadow. And then where is the dominant contrast? Dominant contrast could be the umbrella, but I think it's the little boy. And that's where he really wanted the intention to go, is to his son. I think this is his wife. And so you see the mother, she is the dominant figure. She's overseeing, she's out there enjoying the sun. She's taking care of her kid. But this is what he's really trying to bring attention to. I thought that was good. Now, if you look at the other version of this, see if I can find it. This one is not as high quality, and so I didn't really want to use it. But this one actually reinforces that dominant angle. Here's the dominant angle in here, but also the shadow creates more of that sense of dominant angle in here. So I thought that was interesting when I saw the difference between the two. And I don't know why I have such a bad image here, but I thought this was good. And it also sends a signal that the light is coming from behind. So you got her glowing here, and you've got the backlit in the clouds and in the little boy backlit on there. But again, it reinforces this idea of horizontal, vertical, and angle in there. And then you've got a dominant contrast here. So I hope this is helpful to you, because the question is, can you employ these in your paintings, or can you look at your paintings and make a difference? Now, here's another painting, and this is a Claude Monet painting as well. This was done in 1891. And so I didn't see this at first, but I thought it was fascinating. So I was looking at this and I go, okay, I see a dominant horizontal. Do you see it? Here it is. And I go, okay, I see a dominant vertical. And it's like, which one do I pick? Because they're all the same. And I think that really this kind of acts as like a big, strong vertical by putting those two together. Or it could be those two together, but it doesn't really matter. This one is going to stand out more because it's got a little more contrast right in here. And it's a little bit straighter. This one curves down. But so I think that's the dominant vertical. Where is the dominant angle? Do you see it? I didn't see it at first, but it's very, because it's very subtle, because there's a whole row of other trees in the background. And this is very clever. And he put his angle right there. And so that ties it all together, and it's really strong. It's got reinforcement of these verticals with the trunks of the trees, and he's got his strong horizontal in here. He's got reinforcement of his verticals into here, and even this kind of could considered to go all the way down because it's in the reflection. So you got a really strong one here. If you find that you can look for these things, it'll make a difference. And I didn't understand any of this until I took a class with Don Victor, and he does an online thing, and he gave me a class, and I met him at the plein air convention, and he was really changed my attitude about composition. So I thought I'd share that with you. Okay, do we have any more? Well, we have just one, and that's the Mona Lisa. And the question is, can we improve the Mona Lisa? I don't know. I'd like to see in the comments whether or not you guys feel that the Mona Lisa can be improved upon. Now, I have some opinions about this. First off, as I said in the beginning of the show, my instructor told me, you cannot improve on the Mona Lisa. Don't even try to copy it. It's one of the best paintings ever done. Some people have that opinion. Some people don't. I think that probably what happened, because this painting is so old, and when you see this painting in person, I think what happened is that this area back here, the materials faded, and so everything went really blue. Now, blue in the distance is a normal thing to try and do, but it feels like it lost some of its color in the background, but it may not have. He may have intentionally done that. We'll never really know. I looked at this and I thought, okay, could I find anything? I thought, no, not really. This path here is kind of taking me around here, and then I'm coming back down here, and I'm coming back to here. So it's kind of surrounding her. Is there a dominant horizontal in this painting? I don't know. Right here, right here, right here, right here. Maybe. Is there a dominant vertical? This is really, if you look at this, this is essentially a triangle. So the dominant vertical might just be the triangle outline of her body. And then is there a dominant, dominant angle? That's the angle. Is there a dominant vertical? And no, I'm not seeing it unless it's this. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Now, obviously, this painting is yellowed over time and changed over time. And I would imagine when he painted this originally, this was probably not intended to be as yellow as it is. So if we were to take that, I have some friends in France who photographed the Mona Lisa with a big camera that had 17 billion digits, and then they were able to go in and they created this book on the Mona Lisa, and they digitized it, and they said, here's what it would have looked like. And then they're able to peel off the layers so you can see the underpainting, and which is really interesting how they can do that. But you can see underneath it, you can't see it in the original painting, but you can see that Da Vinci did a hatching technique when he started putting his shadows in, when he first drew in the painting. It's a fascinating book. It's worth seeing. You cannot improve on the Mona Lisa. I'm not even going to try. Okay, so that's our lesson for today, and we did this this way today because, quite frankly, one of our teachers canceled at the last minute, and we had to come up with something for you. So her nose is a vertical. Oh, that's interesting. Let's go back here. You're right. Her nose is a vertical. She aged well. Okay, So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. We have a free gift for you. That is 97 Incredible Art Secrets. Go to 97artsecrets.com/ASL. Want to remind you guys that Fall Color Week is coming up. If you want to come and paint with me for a week, we're going to hang out together for a week. It's going to be in Door County, Wisconsin, 4 hours north of Chicago. It is going to be peak color. And the color up there is spectacular because it's on Lake Michigan, and it's a part of Lake Michigan that's really rocky coast, and it feels like Maine. A lot of lighthouses, a lot of boats, a lot of farms, a lot of a variety of things to paint. And we get out and paint it all for a week. It's going to be really terrific. We have worked with local artists to find all the best spots. And the people in the Midwest go there as like, this is where they go when they want to see full color. So it's going to be spectacular. It's everything included. You just come and we put you up, we feed you, we go painting every day, we sit up at night, we paint portraits, we do music, we have a lot of fun. It's kind of like fall camp for adults. We don't allow any children. So this is a cool thing to do, and we hope that you'll join us. It's called Fall Color Week, and it's September 28th through October 5th. Just go to fallcolorweek.com. That's all I got for today. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you guys are well, and we will be here tomorrow again with another guest, hopefully. If not, we'll come up with something else. Make sure you subscribe to this program. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. We've been here since COVID. We decided to step in during COVID and help you guys figure out how to survive it. And we decided to do art lessons, and we believe anybody can learn to paint. And we believe that even if you're telling yourself, I can't draw a stick figure, I don't have any talent, we believe you can do it. And if you watch any 5 of our normal programs where we're teaching, you're going to get the confidence you need to say, you know what, I can do this. And we have heard literally from thousands of people who have told us that they learned to paint, or that maybe they hadn't painted since they were kids, or since, or ever. They learned to paint here. And so this is a really cool thing. We've had over 18 million views. We're pretty excited about that. So tell your friends, make sure you subscribe, and come back tomorrow if you're new. Okay. And you know what? We cannot improve the Mona Lisa. And I feel it's almost sacrilegious to look at some of these paintings and say, can we improve them? But you know what? Every artist started somewhere. And just because it's a Van Gogh painting doesn't mean it's always a good Van Gogh painting, right? That one we did was. But, he had a lot of turkeys in the early parts of his learning, and we all do. And, not every painting is perfect. And by the way, there's lots of things you can do to improve any painting and look at them differently. And what I've been doing, I have a big giant painting on my easel right now. It's about 4 feet by 3 feet, and it's a big waterfall painting. And I have been, actually, I'll show you if I can. I have been going at this painting and asking myself, oh, let me show you the painting. This is a very early stage, and this is not a very good photo. This is in my studio, but it's a big waterfall painting of the flume. And I've been looking at this and saying, what can I do to make this painting better? And I started looking at it, and I thought, well, it's just an awful lot going on. Here is my dominant vertical right in here. My intended dominant vertical is here. My intended dominant horizontal is here. And my intended angle really is here. So this is creating a lot of angular tension here. But one of the things I've realized, and this photo is not very good, but I have to really strengthen my darks in here and here. And I want most of this painting up here to go dark and to pretty much disappear. I'm going to throw most of my light on the leaves up here. I'm going to put figures jumping off into the water in here, and they've got some figures I kind of placed in there. And I'm going to do a self-portrait of myself here painting the scene. I'm making this for a local museum. This is going to go all dark in here. And so once I decided to apply this technique to this, I think this is going to change the painting considerably. So we'll see how it goes once we do it. But I went in here and I did this, essentially this is a 3-value no-tan. And I want to look at this because there's a lot of mid grays in this. And I thought, what can I do? And that's when I determined that I really needed to get these blacks in here, back in here, get this mostly dark, because I really want to enforce the big rocks in the front. And then I will enhance the rocks up here. But the white is really going to emphasize the angle in here. And then I'll do some things. The gray is really what I'm emphasizing on here, but the white of the waterfall is really what's going to be taking most of the attention. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope it's helpful, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning in to Art School Live. If you want to forward this or give a like or a thumbs up, we appreciate it. Let other people know about it so we can help them learn about art. And today, learning about composition. I'm Eric Rhodes. Bye.